I wanted to kind of bring on somebody a little bit different, a little bit unique. Somebody that I've known for a while, somebody that I totally appreciate his mindset and the way that he approaches everything. We actually met in Denver. He was one of my CrossFit coaches when I was kind of deep into that world. And we became friends, and we got to know each other on a personal level, on a business level. And we kind of continued that since I've moved to Austin and everything like that. And during this time, being that Colby is a high performance coach and he's really focused, on the athletic side, but also on the mindset side. And a lot of his clients are entrepreneurs of very successful businesses. So I'm going to kind of throw it over to Colby right now. He's going to give you a little bit of background on maybe what he does, and then we're going to kind of go through some different things that I think are going to be helpful for a lot of you guys kind of going through this situation.
Yeah. Josh, thanks, man. Huge honor, number one, just to maintain a relationship across the country with you, and love seeing what you're doing. And yeah, you nailed it, man. So I'm a high performance coach, and typically who I work with are entrepreneurs and small business owners. And it's a lot of health and fitness coaching, working on habits, working on mental patterns, beliefs, identity, some of these things. And so the way I like to describe it is the way people come to me, or the way people get into my ecosystem, is through health, fitness, and nutrition. And they're trying to look for some help to, to change their body, to get in better shape, develop better habits. Where that relationship goes is actually life coaching. And so we take it much deeper than just sets and reps and grams of protein and different supplement recommendations. And we get into, like I said, thought patterns, limiting beliefs, habits, limiting factors in their lifestyle. And so, yeah, a little background. I was a CrossFit coach, CrossFit Verve, downtown Denver. And when I met Josh, he was this, for lack of a better term, kind of a meathead bodybuilder who looked awesome, came in, and he was doing an article for 303 magazine, was it? And he was wanting to publish an article on this CrossFit craze that was happening. And so I don't know if you were in my class or how we met, but then we just vibed and started training together and working out. And you kind of drank the Kool-Aid for a summer or two, and we were doing competitor training and just smashing 2 or 3 hour sessions every day. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And I just published the video of you at Project Rise with Britney Spears jamming. I walk into the gym one day and he's got the radio pumping. So yeah, man, that's what I do now. Primarily focused on any sort of high achiever who is struggling to either maintain their health in the context of their business, or anybody who has sacrificed their health in the name of their business. And right now, especially with the COVID stuff happening, a lot of people are really uncertain. They're resorting back to primal patterns, if you will, survival mechanisms, and comfort food and alcohol and pornography and junk and all this other stuff that's really kind of clogging them up. And so the past few weeks have really been about just giving clients time and space to just process and think, and have a comfortable space with somebody they trust to figure out what the hell is going on and focus in on what they can control inside their businesses.
Yeah, and you and I are kind of similar in the sense of like our working patterns, where I kind of at clients, I'm traveling. That's been the kind of change for me, is that I'm not able to obviously do that traveling. But for you, a lot of the stuff you're doing is face to face, but you still do some stuff online. Similar to me, I work from home or whatever. But how's that transition been to like completely at home, completely like remote? Has that been I guess from your perspective first, like how have you adapted to it? And then secondly, like how has some of your clients been able to kind of adapt with like having to actually be at home and not be in their business?
Yeah. Great question, man. It's really important because everybody's experiencing this right now, right? I'm lucky. I'm in a position where coaching, can be done in person. It could be done via video call, could be done via phone call, could be done via text message, right? So I'm blessed to be in a position where I could transition my business. Now, I've got a bunch of clients who run auto dealerships, supplement stores, like all these different retail type businesses. Then they're getting like fucking crushed in a not good way. And so, transitioning, man, that there's been kind of a few phases. There was this initial 2 or 3 days of not panic, but just really hyperactive productivity, transitioning my office into my bedroom, as you can see, right? Getting the whiteboard set up, setting boundaries with my family of like, hey, when I'm working, I've got two little boys, a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old. Wife Ashley have been super supportive. And so, you know, there was a day I remember when everything was shifting and I was just honestly just kind of confused and freaked out about, I don't know how this is going to happen. And I remember just being so angry at the entire situation because all of it was outside of my control. Like every last bit of, you know, gyms are shutting down. My wife's hair salon is shut down. All my favorite restaurants, you know, here in Denver, we're in a shelter in place and we got to stay in our houses unless we're outside for physical activity. So transitioning my business, honestly, has been a huge blessing. This is something I've wanted to do just to create a little bit more freedom in my lifestyle, to be able to travel more. And obviously right now that's not happening. Spend more time with my family, spend more time studying and learning and sharpening the saw. I found that when I was doing a lot of in-person coaching, I was kind of tied down to one location. It wasn't bad. I had an awesome setup, but it's been a blessing, man, getting this workspace set up. And then there was this phase of, you know, the honeymoon, the first, maybe it was like week 2, where it was like, oh yeah, this is cool. Like, I like this. Sleeping in, I'm not training people at 5 a.m, you know, I'm starting my day a little bit later. And that lasted, you know, for like 7 to 10 days. And, phase 3 was kind of like, okay, could I do this for the foreseeable future? Is this like a permanent shift in my business? Am I able to, live quote unquote the laptop lifestyle and just run my business through here? And so I'm just really thankful and grateful that I'm healthy. My wife and my kids are healthy. My family's healthy, and trying to help my clients process and understand what they can control and what they can't control. And if there's one thing I want to leave y'all with here today, it is literally that. There's an exercise we do. It's called clearing the mental clutter. We'll get into this one in a little bit, but there's probably a lot of stuff going on in your brain right now that you can't actually control the outcome, but it's taking a lot of mental and emotional energy, and it's just kind of wasted. And those are resources that are really valuable that could be used towards more productive efforts, right? And if, everybody's situation is a little bit different, but the foundation of all of this is health and fitness and physical well-being. And check it out, we all got a lot of time in our hands, and there's honestly no reason, no excuse that we can't be getting some sort of physical activity in every single day. So anyways, man, to answer your question, yeah, it's been a kind of a weird shift, but much needed in my business and in helping my clients through this. Everybody's a little bit different. Like we were talking earlier, I've got a few clients who are GMs of big auto dealers here in Denver. And man, they just had to lay off 50, 60, 80% of their staff. And these are friends and family members that they've been with for years. And to say, hey, by the way, you're fired and I don't know when you're going to get your job back. Good luck. And then there's this whole other side, man, of how to deal with that stress of these things you can't control, of these things that are just like punching us in the face from nowhere, right? And so we can dive into that a little bit later, but that's kind of been the shift so far.
Let's say for a lot of people, this uncertainty is different for them. I have the luxury of being in business where it's constant uncertainty, where I'm working on multiple different projects and with different things that are constantly kind of hitting me in the face. I always tell people, I get hit in the face all day long. I'm used to it. This is, because I think about uncertainty. Every day is uncertain. So for me, it's always, how do I respond to that uncertainty is what I can control. It's kind of control what you control. The uncontrollable stuff, you can only respond. How you respond to those, kind of things you can't control is the only way you can control it, I guess. But a lot of people, they don't have the luxury, I guess, of doing that on a day-to-day basis. They're very routine-based, very schedule-based, very much like they get into this kind of thing, and then all of a sudden it gets interrupted. The normalcy of their life is interrupted, and then it gets into like stress responses. Like, how do I deal with these things? And to your point, you were mentioning about all those kind of vices or bad habits. Like, you start to revert back to a lot of that. And even at this point, like, because I'm kind of overextended on a lot of my kind of stress receptors and things like that, just because I'm taking on a lot more work. I'm taking on a lot more stressful work for trying to help these entrepreneurs as well. And I've even in a way, like, I might go to the fridge or the freezer and pull out that ice cream a little bit more than I normally do. You know what I mean? It's just kind of one of those things where
Yes.
it helps out a little bit. It just kind of, it numbs you a little bit throughout that night. And you're like, all right, now I'm ready to start the next day. And it's definitely not a healthy habit. And it's one that I definitely don't want to continue to use for extended period of time. But I can see how a lot of those people are kind of using a lot of those different vices during this time. And what have you seen, like, I guess from the people you're working with, like, what are some of the behavioral patterns that you've like had to consistently kind of change?
Avoidance, number one. Avoidance, trying to, tuck your head in the sand and pretend it'll go away. And then when you come up, everything's going to be the same, because it's not.
Yeah.
So, the very first week of the shift, maybe we'll refer back to this as the shift. The very first week, I remember our discussions were on, just number one, giving them a place to just talk. I would just shut up. I'd ask questions and let them process. And that was really therapeutic, not only for me, but for them as well. But then beyond that, coming to an agreement that everything has changed. And then understanding that with this kind of destruction, if you will, there's also the opportunity to rebuild your life the way you really want it, your routines the way you really want them. Luckily, most of my clients, like I said, are entrepreneurs. They're very successful financially. So money, at least for the next couple years, probably isn't a problem for them, right? Not everybody's in that situation. That's a whole nother conversation about money. Without money coming in, it's a big stressor. But avoidance, like avoiding, some of the little things, like I know I need to be working out, but I'm just not ready, or not having the home gym set up. And I say home gym, I mean like a dedicated 5 foot by 5 foot space where you could just do some sort of daily physical challenge. It doesn't even have to be like a CrossFit workout or weightlifting or anything. There's literally social media and trainers, I'm loving this, are just flooded with at-home workouts. They're all putting out the same stuff,
Yeah.
right? And so it's a weird thing for trainers to be like, man, how am I going to differentiate in this market space? Because everybody's talking about at-home workouts. But anyways, dude, avoidance, self-doubt is another one of like, am I going to get through this? Is my business going to make it? And then it's just, encouraging them and giving them the space to step into looking at their financials, projecting it out a few months, trying to actually see what the numbers say, and then getting really creative in terms of finding solutions. All right. So a good example is there's a coffee shop here in Denver, Old Town Arvada, and they are a coffee shop in the morning and they're like a bar in the evening. It's called the Bluegrass. And what they're doing is actually selling off all of their liquor inventory at like discounted prices, right? And so they're having like a fire sale on booze, and they're crushing it, man. They're like getting that cash flow going such that they can continue to operate. And so they're just kind of figuring out creative ways to do this. Man, also you talked about routines, and everybody is a creature of habit. Humans in nature, this is what we do. This is how our brain makes sense of the world, such that we don't have to waste a lot of energy thinking about what we're going to do every single day. However, we're in this weird phase where we're in that exact space where it's like, okay, what am I going to do today? What's on the agenda? And so if there's one powerful thing that I would share with your audience, is to create some sort of a personal success ritual, some sort of 5 to 60 minute long thing that you do when you need a reset, when you need to get your energy back, and when you need a break from all the stress. And so some components of this will include a little bit of physical exercise, going on a walk, maybe doing some light stretching, doing a full workout, whatever, staying hydrated, drinking a little bit of water, getting a good nourishing meal. If you want to take it to the next layer, it's things like mindfulness and meditation. It's things like guided breath work. Breath work is something I'd love to discuss today, but it's a potent, powerful way to set a foundation in the midst of chaos. And I'm guessing, if your audience are guys like you, they probably have, or people like you, they probably have a lot of people depending on them to show up, right? However, what we're seeing, or at least what I'm seeing, is a lot of like coping with vices that in the moment are productive, but the more frequent use turns destructive, right? So a couple beers a night for 2 or 3 nights, not a big deal. couple beers a night every single night for the next month, we're developing a habit at that, right? And it's, I've got clients waking up in the morning like, oh man, I got so drunk last night. I really needed that. I'm like, that's cool. However, how you feel? Are you going to be able to perform today for the people who really need you? And so the thinking has to shift from, oh my God, I can't control all these external things to, you know what I can control is how I'm responding and how I'm taking care of myself such that I have the energy, the presence, and the personality to show up for the stakeholders in my life, my wife, my kids, my spouse, my business partner, my employees, my neighborhood, right? So what I'm trying to inspire in my clients is a sense of personal ownership over their own shit, if you will.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, what you can control is you can block off 30 minutes and get up a little bit earlier to get 30 minutes of meditation and movement in. You can. If you can't do that, you're unwilling to change and I can't help you. So there's a lot of stuff that we can control despite, a chaotic thing happening on the outside.
This concept that I think that I always try to keep with me is that I kind of love everything that happens to me, like good or bad. I try to frame it in the sense of like that I love that it's happening, because it's either it's something that I try to manifest, it's something positive, something that I'm seeing come through, or it's teaching me something. It's either teaching me something around maybe I need to worry about different relationships, different priorities, different, whatever. And I kind of make sure that I am, good or bad. If something's happened to me, I have to make sure that I'm enjoying that and kind of being present in it. And I know that that is a lot difficult when it seems to be constant bad stuff happening. You're like, why does this keep happening? But it is that time to teach you some pretty valuable lessons around tons of different parts of your life. And that's been something that I've, at least from my clients, that I've kind of let them know, like, if something's bad's happening in your business, this is the opportunity we can fix it now. Like we're seeing a fracture or a stress in the business. Let's figure out the root cause to that now, because it does at times, some of these challenging times, it does provide us some unique perspectives on our business, on our life, or whatever, that if everything's going great and it's Goldilocks and everything's perfect, you tend to just like gloss over a lot of maybe like the minor things that are happening in your life. You're like, it'll be fine, it'll be great. But when it starts to have some stress in it and the cracks start to show, then you need to then address it at that point and say, okay, here's a lesson, or here's an opportunity for me to fix something, and kind of go forward with that. And that's been something that I've been consciously trying to stay present in my mind, but also with clients, and let them know, like, hey, that's terrible. I totally get it, but we're going to fix this. Like, now is the opportunity for us to, take action and do what we need to do to create a new, system, process, habits, behaviors, whatever it is, to actually get that stuff cleaned out. And there's been I think in my world, something that I've noticed with a lot of people, and maybe not my clients, but just people on social media. And what I've seen a lot around is like, there's these constraints that have been put into our lives now. And it either does two things. You either have somebody like you and I, and probably a lot of people that I've been talking to on the show, that then you spring into action. You start to get creative. You start to get flexible, adapting. You start to like really, that's your time to shine. That's your defining moment. Like, this is what you really like end up loving. Like when you maybe not when you're in the middle of it, but like you realize after, you're like, wow, that was really great. That was impactful. Like, I was able to get through this. And then you have the people on the opposite side, where I'm seeing a lot more of, is like inactivity. That's like just nothing. Like, they just don't want to do anything. I mean, I guess from your perspective, have you been seeing like a similar divide in people? And then I guess the question is like, how do you help those people that aren't really active? They're like, they're just kind of sitting there.
Dude, totally. And I'll say this from not only from my clients, but colleagues, friends and family, friends that on the internet, people that I know just in the industry. Amongst my clients, initially, yes, there's a lot of avoidance, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of, well, I'm going to wait and see. And I had to challenge that line of thinking. Okay, well, if you wait and see, where does this leave you if you're not taking action? Because number one, one of the first shifts that needs to happen for somebody is to realize nobody's coming to save them.
Yeah.
The government, not Donald Trump, not the IRS, not the SBA. Like, yes, those are intended to be a stopgap and like stop some of the bleeding. It's not going to solve the broken business.
Yeah.
It's not gonna solve a bad product. I'm sorry, right? $10,000 grant is gonna maybe allow you to make payroll in the next 2 weeks, but if you have a shitty product and a shitty mindset, it's only delaying the inevitable.
Yeah.
So if somebody's unwilling to, if they're just not in the right state of mind that they want to change, you can't do anything. There's nothing that another person can do short of like gun to the head getting them to change. And I'm working through this with a few clients right now. If they're not in the mindset that they're not open and receptive to being coached and to implement and to take action, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. And this is part of the serenity prayer of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is something says, Lord, give me the wisdom to see the things that are inside of my control, and I don't know the exact quote, but understand the difference between what I can control and what I can't control. And in the side of working with humans, you cannot control another human's behavior.
Yeah.
What I can do is try to open up a new perspective, try to spark a little bit of motivation, and try to have people act in the face of uncertainty. Doesn't mean you're not fearful. It doesn't mean that you're not uncertain. It doesn't mean that you're not scared. Those are all real, and those are probably the feelings that are kind of driving the uncertainty and the avoidance. But being able to be brave and act in the face of fear and in the face of uncertainty is what is going to leave, as things shift, bro, there's going to be major winners in this, and there's going to be big time losers, and the losers are going to continue to perpetuate this thing happen, and it's this external thing, and it's the government's fault, and it's Trump's fault, and it's Obama's fault, or whatever. And that's bullshit. It's your own fucking fault. Yeah. Like, if you don't come out of this better, if you're on hold and you're just waiting to see what happens, like, I don't know. I would just be so anxious and pissed off and on edge, because for me, action cures anxiety.
Yeah.
For me, anytime I'm feeling anxious, it's because I'm not thinking big enough and I'm not implementing. I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
Thinking doesn't solve anything. Action is what is actually what is needed to move forward. And so in coaching, it's oftentimes finding the thing that is impeding that action. More often than not, it's self-doubt, fear of failure, uncertainty, one of those three things. When we can get in and I can identify what it is, then we can kind of unclog it, so to speak, to allow them to think clearly and focus on the outcome that they're trying to create.
Yeah, I mean, what you're kind of touching on in the end, I mean, it totally aligns with a lot of the things that I've been saying over the last probably about a month, when, all the kind of stuff happened with, shutting down and the lockdown and people's businesses. You weren't able to go into business, and a lot of people had a lot of free time on their hands at that point. And I kind of was letting people know, like, this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And, for you to kind of sit and wait for the savior to come to you, be that the $1,200 check, be that the SBA loans, be it whatever it is, that's kind of the wrong mindset. The mindset right now is, what can I do to get better? And you mentioned around like winners and losers. A lot of people are going to frame that in the sense of like, I'm going to be financially a winner or not. And I think it can also be like, do I come out stronger in my mind? Do I actually
Yes.
strengthen myself for like the next time a situation like this happens? Because there will be one. I mean, it might be smaller, it might be bigger. I'm going to assume that there's going to be something bigger in our lifetime. Like, are you able to actually pull from this experience and go, I'm stronger from this, like, be it in my mindset, or whatever. And you actually now have the tools in your tool belt to actually like fire at the right chance to do this. I have mentioned to a few people around, like, when I got out of grad school, this was in 2009, my undergrad was in 2007. So I was in a mode during like the financial crisis of like, just like a young kid trying to get a job. I was really just trying to get whatever possible. I didn't get the opportunity to like, think about these challenges as opportunities. I didn't get a chance to like, actually get some value out of the last like crisis, because the last like 11 years have been pretty much Goldilocks. Like everything's been pretty good. So this to me is like my point of like, how would I reacted if I had the chance 11 years ago? This is my kind of defining moment in my age. So it's like, I want everybody to look back and say like, okay, he's doing what he can do. He's, he's helping, he's active, he's, doing whatever he needs to do. But I think that people might think, only in the framework of money, like only one way on the money. And I don't want people to kind of misconstrue, I guess, or misinterpret what you were saying, because I don't think that's what you're saying, that you're going to come out stronger one way or another.
Oh, absolutely, man. And maybe you're going to come out of this like totally broke, and your business goes bankrupt and you have to sell everything. And then maybe through that, you actually transition into a life you love.
Yeah.
That's going to happen with a lot of businesses out there. There are people who I think are like dreading normal coming back. You know what I mean? Because they hate their job, they hate their life, and they want to change. And so, one thing I want to add to that, 100%, man, this is literally once in a lifetime opportunity. Maybe something this nuts will happen again. I certainly hope not, but it might. You're totally right. So, if you're sitting back and not using this time to learn a new skill, to sharpen your knowledge and maybe sharpen your mindset, it's challenging times that creates like grit and character and perseverance. You don't develop those traits when business is going great and you're doing year over year growth, or you're in great shape and things are awesome. No, like, you develop character when somebody in your family dies and your business is bombing and you're going through a divorce. Unfortunately, that's happens with a lot of people. And so only through challenge and only through challenging times is when we can up level our thinking and really put into practice all the stuff that we hear on these podcasts, as opposed to just digesting and be like, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
No, go out and take action and implement, despite the fact that things might be burning down around you.
There was a point that you brought up around kind of unclogging. Can you explain that a little bit around like
Yeah,
some of the practices, or like something like, I guess, cues or whatever you kind of use to
totally.
help people?
Absolutely, man. So this comes from the idea that people do want what's best for them, that people are intrinsically motivated. And that's a whole nother discussion, intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic would be like, I like what I do because of what it gets me,
Yeah.
because of the fame, the power, the money, the status. Intrinsic motivation is, I like what I do because of how it makes me feel inside. I like coaching because it makes me feel good when I see people have a breakthrough, right? I like working out because it makes me feel good when I'm done working out, right? Um, Looking good is also a good benefit. That's an external motivator. And so helping people, number one, shift from external motivators to internal, intrinsic motivation. Once we can get them there, then honestly, that person becomes unstoppable. And so in the context of unclogging, the very first layer is understanding what's motivating them. What is their motivator? What is it? In the fitness world, it's like, well, I just want to look better naked. I'm like, cool. Everybody wants that. But why is that important?
Yeah.
Go a layer deeper, go a layer deeper, go a layer deeper. Comes down to self-worth. Comes down to, I just want to like love myself. I want to feel good in my body. And they think that getting leaner is the solution, when really there's a whole other discussion there. In terms of unclogging, let me think of a good example here. So if a person is struggling with motivation, we're kind of on that theme. So let's say that, I'm sure you've had these days, where you're highly productive and you're creating content, you're taking clients, new people are reaching out to you, and you're just like, boom, 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 knocking off your tasks. And then one day you wake up and it's just like, ugh, fuck, I don't feel like doing any of this, right? You're just tired. Maybe you didn't sleep good, you drank too much, or you just been grinding for 2 weeks straight and you're just done. This happens. This is super duper common, and we'll dive into energy and all our different sources here in a second. In that context, when a person is unmotivated, they're actually motivated towards getting some rest and recovery, but it's kind of a hard shift for people to embrace that in like the hustle and grind culture. And rest and recovery is just as important. It's a biological law. We actually need that downtime physically for our energy to renew and our brain to stay on point. But in that context, it's helping people understand that, sometimes, yes, taking a break and just getting distance is really good. Today is a good example of this in my business. This hour call and a 30-minute call I had before this, all that was on my calendar is it. Other than this, man, I'm going on a bike ride. I'm spending time with my family. I'm just resting. I'm recovering, because I was getting really cynical. I was getting really irritated. And I was just in a place where I just was not able to show up as the best coach that I could be. When that happens, I clear my calendar of all the non-essential stuff, and I take time to recover. So in the context of motivation, if somebody is just having those days, number one, it's identifying and reconnecting with what you value as a person and making sure that your behaviors are still in alignment there. As an example, I really value health and fitness. I value being authentic. And so when I turn into a sloth occasionally and I'm not taking care of my body and I'm eating junk food, I'm being inauthentic to the things I value. And I need to have a really hard look at my behaviors and figure out, okay, no judgment. What can I do to begin shifting it back to where it needs to be? Maybe it's, just eat a really healthy breakfast and go on a 20-minute walk. I'm just making shit up, but you get the idea. So when somebody is unmotivated, it's an opportunity to, number one, figure out what is the bigger pattern at play, zoom out from that one time. And as a coach, I just take mental notes. Okay, cool. You're a little down today. Okay, mental note. And if it happens a couple times in a row, all right, I just, continue to think. There's an idea we talk about called patterns of existence. If you were to look at any area of your life, your business, your relationships, your finances, your energy levels, your motivation, it kind of flows up and down like this. And so what I've learned about human performance and behavior, it's not so much about helping people to get motivated like when they're feeling really good up here. It's about helping them know when things are shifting, when they're coming into a downward slope, if you will, and then mitigating the damage by developing good behaviors, having an accountability system. Some people like go really off the deep end, cheat on their wives, just go to Vegas and do all the blow in the world. And I've got clients like that, man. It's crazy. It's a weird fucking thing. So anyways, patterns of existence, man, is understanding your patterns and knowing yourself such that you're like, oh, pause. Why am I irritated? Well, I haven't slept good. I've been eating a bunch of garbage and drinking alcohol. I'm stressed out about this uncertainty. All right, well, okay, you're explaining it, which is good. You're now starting to understand. And then you think about, okay, well, what do I actually need in this context? And in that context is maybe you just honestly just need some downtime. Maybe you just need some rest and recovery. And more often than not, that's actually what somebody needs, is just to like pull back, especially with the people I work with are a lot like me, a lot like you. They're very achievement oriented. They're entrepreneurs. They're like, go, 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 go. They're type A personality. It's actually hard for that person to slow down. When I talk to somebody about breath work and meditation, they're like, yeah, fuck that. I don't have time for that. Once they try it and they practice it, they're like, dude, this is a superpower. I'm unstoppable. But that's just one example, right? So another one might be low self-confidence. Low self-confidence is really common amongst entrepreneurs, right? They can put on this front of like, I'm running this thing, I'm doing this show. But low self-confidence comes from not honoring the agreements that you make with yourself, right? So think about this real quick. The most important agreement you'll ever make is the agreements that you make with you as a person. As an example, if somebody says, I'm gonna get in shape. I'm going to commit to going to the gym, New Year's resolution. I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to eat healthy. Number one, they're biting off way too much. It's not actually going to happen. But number two, when they don't follow through with any one of those things, the message that they're sending to their ego, to their self, is you're not worthy. You're not good enough. You're not important. We're not even going to worry about this. And that, my friends, is how you really fuck up your self-confidence, is when you don't follow through on the things that you say you're going to do, especially with yourself. And so number one is understanding that the agreements that you make, you got to take them really serious, and say no and mean it often, especially with agreements with yourself. If you're like unwilling to take on a project and you know that it's just not the right time, it's okay to say no. But number two is when you honor these agreements, you actually develop this confidence. You send the signal that I am worthy, I am valuable, I am important, and I'm worthy of all these things that I want for myself. And then when you do that, you create more of that in your life. So it's kind of a double-sided coin, if you will.
The thing you were just talking about kind of hit home for me, at least, because I've recently, last 6 months or so, I've been saying yes way too much. And it has always been a thing of mine that I do. I have the Superman syndrome. I think that just naturally kind of happens. And for a lot of times it ends up working out. I overextend myself, but I'm still able to like get it done. But I got into somewhere where I was way past that point. And what ended up happening was that I was missing some set deadlines for client things, because a lot of times, I mean, there's some set deadlines for the stuff that I'm working on, but a lot of these things are made, of like, okay, I'm gonna get this done for you on Friday, or whatever that is. I'm sure they'd be fine if it's there on Monday, but like,
Yeah.
I've set these things, and I've always kept those things really sacred to me. But I was unable to like meet a collection of them, and it started
How'd that make
to,
you feel when you
oh,
did that?
man, it started to like really rip me apart. I started to like
Yeah.
have these like really weird responses where like I didn't want to open up my email. I didn't want, like, I started
Avoidance.
to
I don't
like
want to do this.
yeah, like I
I
started to
don't
get
want to
into
do
like
this.
weird things where like I was like, what the heck? Like, I never liked this. And I had to kind of like take a step back and say, okay, I know I'm doing this, and I know where the issue is. I have to fix this issue. And I guess it's, for me, I'm extremely self-aware. I am like somebody that is, being that I'm a strategic thinker, like I'm always in my head. I like to be in my head. I like quiet. I like thinking. I can run through scenarios all day long, and I enjoy that. So I'm actually like, when I start to do things, I'm noticing it, but I'm also thinking to myself, like, I could fix it. I could fix it. I'm gonna fix this. And then it hasn't been very often that I've ever gotten to the point where what I was just describing, where I literally like started to do things that I normally would never do. So like your story you were trying to say was super, kind of powerful for me to hear, because I hadn't heard it like kind of voiced
Yeah.
to me. It's kind of like you go through it yourself, but you don't really realize that it's something that's common.
Yeah. Super common, man. Check this out. So I'm a coach. I do this for a living. I try to be authentic and practice everything that I'm telling you. And these are literally things that have impacted my life. And I won't share something with a client if I haven't done it myself. So as an example, just the first week after the shift, I would get up, dude. Before this, I had a great routine. 4:30, wake up. I'd study for 30 minutes. I'd eat breakfast. I'd go train my clients at the gym. 7:30 till 9 a.m., whatever. Come home, take a break. Just have this really dialed in routine. It was awesome. So all of a sudden, I shifted online, dude. I'm sleeping in till like 7:30, 8:30. Nights getting later and later. I'm staying up later, playing Call of Duty, like drinking margaritas and Moscow Mules every night. I'm like, I don't do this. Who the fuck am I
Yeah.
becoming? This is so strange. And what it is was just a lot of uncertainty, trying to find comfort in an uncertain situation. And instead of trying to change it right on the bat and like beat myself down, it's like, God, you're such a terrible dad. You're a bad coach. You're a big failure. I was like, you know what? What would happen if I actually just embrace this for a little while to see where it goes?
Yeah.
Right. And if I need to reel it in, I know I have the willpower to like reel it back if I need to. And it was weird, man. It was like a 7 to 10 day thing. And when I share that vulnerability with my clients, they're like, oh my God, I'm going through the same thing too. Right. And so I don't say this from a place of, I'm perfect. I don't drink. I don't do these things. No, the reason I know this is because I do them and because I can relate, and I'm human and I'm highly sensitive. I'm highly emotional. But like you, I'm also really self aware where I can sit back, oftentimes without judgment, depends on the day, and figure out, man, why am I doing this? Oh, because like there's a lot of uncertainty. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make my mortgage payment next month with all this transition. Once that settled down and I started taking action, back to a normal routine, feeling great. So the mind's a weird thing, man. And a lot of times people operate on autopilot. They switch off, they go numb, they go into avoidance mode, right? And they're just like, they put it on the back burner, like, oh, I'll deal with this shit later. So it's a really complex, multi-layered thing. It's very nuanced, but I love digging in and working with people on this stuff.
This conversation, I think, challenged a lot of what I do on a day-to-day basis, and making me be conscious of like, a lot of these habits might not be as good as I think they are right now,
Yeah.
because I am definitely, using extreme amount of activity to probably buffer a lot of like some other stuff. It's like, hey, let me go
Weird
to the
thing.
extreme of
Yeah.
like as much activity as possible, because that is going to help
So
me,
that I don't have to look at this other area. Yeah.
exactly. If anybody wants to get a hold of you, contact you, how do they do that, Colby?
Dude, honestly, I want you to text me. Just call me. My phone number is 303-895-5098. I know it's a weird thing, right, to give out my number on the internet. I trust you. I trust your audience, and I got a good spam filter. So, yeah, seriously, text me, call me. If you want to learn more about me, go to my website, colbyknepp.com. You can follow me on Facebook. I put most of my content, my teaching inside my Facebook feed. Yeah, man, this has been awesome. I love following your stuff, Josh, and seeing your growth you've always been like a business mentor. I don't know if I've ever told you this to me, man. I know you've got your MBA and you're just totally crushing it in the consulting world. And so I watch from a distance and observe and see what you're doing, man, and it really inspires me, and I'm really grateful to have this opportunity.
I appreciate that. I appreciate everything you said. I mean, I appreciate the time and this has been, like I said, one of the most enriching conversations that I've had in a long time because it's definitely challenging a lot of what I'm doing.
Yeah, man. Hey, one more thing, guys. Inside Facebook, I got this private group going. I was posting daily mindset videos, the same stuff we talk about here. Listen, we all know this stuff. This isn't new ideas mostly. Maybe there's some new stuff here. But we all know this, and it's really helpful to be reminded. And so one of the projects I'm working on now, it's called M2 Monday, Movement Mindset Monday. Every Monday to my email list, probably starting in the next week or two, I'm going to be sending out movement and mindset training for entrepreneurs, for high performers, anybody who wants to level up their thinking and their mindset. Just go to my website. You'll be able to opt in, and would love to maintain a relationship and add value to your listeners' lives.
Perfect. I'll definitely do that. I'll link that down on the video. Thanks, Colby. I appreciate it.
Later, bro.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos, would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly. And if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you some value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.